Hello, it's Dr. Rowe. I'm videoing this to you with a cap on. You may have seen a couple of other videos that I did whilst I'm here at this renovation project. I just thought I'd put a cap on for a little bit of variety. I want to tackle a subject to do with no money down. Now, the question that's come in is, Dr. Rowe, can you give me some tips on no money down projects or property developments or property strategies? So I want to first of all say that I'm not an independent financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor for you, and what I'm about to share with you are basically just educational tools where you will need to go and seek professional advice and guidance from your own financial advisor with regards to anything to do with your own personal financial situation. So I want to talk from my understanding and what I've done in the past when it comes to what are phrased as no money down deals. Now, first of all, I don't actually believe there's such a thing as no money down deals. I don't think it really works that way, because whenever you do a deal, excuse me, I'm wobbling the camera there. Whenever you do a deal, you will need to put funds down into that project. I think the term evolved out of America going back some years now when I first started, and it was a big phrase around the early 2000s, no money down deals, no money down deals. Let's look at it practically. In real terms, actually, what the phrase means is, let me take these off for a minute, what the phrase means is no money left in the deal after a certain period of time. That's how I look at it. That's how I approach it, which ultimately can then mean an infinite return on investment. So what do I mean by that? You see, if I'm going into a project, the objective here is to put the money into the deal. Having put the money into the deal, there's enough value being added so that when I look to refinance that project at some point in the future, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, shorter, if I'm looking at, say, a commercial type project potentially, then the new value allows me to get a new mortgage, which is higher than everything that I've put into the deal. I'll come back to this in just a moment if you're not following this completely. And that allows me to pull the original capital back out. And now I've got no money left in the deal. What I've actually got is a cash flow, and I've got equity in that deal. So that's the phrase and the terminology that I would like to use with you here. Now, if you speak to somebody else and they go, no, Dr. Rowe's not, he's talking BS. You can definitely do no money down deals. Fine, go and have a listen to what they're saying, but think about the law, think about what contractually and legally is correct as well. Now, in the United Kingdom, and again, seek advice and guidance on this, but if you're doing a property, for example, under a contract, like an option contract, where you have the right to buy an asset in the future, then strictly speaking, you still have to put £1 down to lock that contract in place. So let's talk about my interpretation of no money down, and let me give you some tips. I'll give you 3 tips on this. Firstly, whenever you're looking to do this, you've really got to be clear on where the capital is coming from. So if your objective is to do a deal and then, for example, pull the capital back out and then put it back to where it came from, that means it's no money left in the deal. But it just might be that in this example, you're not using all of your own funds to do the project. So one example might be that your parents have got money sat there and it's in a savings account, or it could be in equity in their own home. And as their child, they're happy to lend money to you. Again, seek advice on this. Make sure it's all appropriate with the lawyers and with the solicitors and with the mortgage company. It might be you have a limited company and you set that company up. That's called Company A. And mum and dad lend money to Company A as a business loan. And you set that loan up, for the sake of argument, for 12 months. That's another conversation for another day. So they've come to the table with their funds. You may have some money in there already. You might have, for example, the money for the deposit, and they're lending you the money for the renovation, as an example. That could be one way to do it. It could be that because you've been able to structure it in such a way that their funds do the whole project, you've confirmed that with your solicitor, where the proof of funds have come from. Again, you've got to seek advice on this. I'm not telling you to do this, I'm saying go and seek advice on this. And also your mortgage broker needs to confirm that's okay with the lender you're dealing with. Let's say that's okay. The company then say, okay, we'd like to buy this project. So the first thing is making sure that you've lined up the funds so you know where they're coming from in order for this whole strategy to work and to be able to cycle in and cycle out. It's rinse and recycle, the money back out again. You've got to make sure you've got the funds to start with. So in this example, let's say this is a project that's being funded through your parents. So that's the first thing. In any sort of deal like this, is you've got to know where the funds are coming from and how you're securing it, what agreements you've got in place, is everything legal and tight, etc. Make sure that it's all approved with whoever you're dealing with to sort out your funding going in, the mortgage, for example, and the legals. Now, it could be that their money is being used to buy the property completely outright for cash, in which case you're not even using a mortgage to do it. Right? So again, that'll depend on the strategy. That's number one. The second thing you've got to make sure is the market value. This is the second big tip when it comes to doing quote unquote no money left in deals. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you're buying the property for £100,000 and you need to put 10 grand's worth of work and costs in, and it takes it up to 110,000. So what we've got to do now is we've got to make sure that now we're in this property for 110. Some of it might be with a mortgage, some of it might be with your funds from your parents, however you've structured it, or it could be the whole thing's been done with their cash and you're going to pay them back at the end. The next thing is you've got to make sure that the value of the property at the end is sufficient so that the new mortgage on the property, i.e. 75%, is greater than or equal to the 110,000 that you're going in. Now, if you look across here, I'm going to draw this up on this side so you're clear on this. So that way there's no confusion. So at the top, I'm going to put the market value. If you look up there, the market value. Now that's the market value after the property has been renovated. Remember, you've bought it from Mr. and Mrs. Jones. They're distressed. They're going through a divorce. So they were asking 115, 120, and you came in and you said 90, and after a bit of haggling and going backwards and forwards, you said you can move quickly, you're not tied to a chain, a sale, whatever, and they've agreed because they want to get out of the house. The house is run down, it needs some renovation, but not a massive amount of renovation. So what's happened here is you've got a distressed seller and a distressed property, but only mildly distressed. Right, so come down a notch, market value. What we know is that you're in the property for 110 all in. So we need the new financing, the new mortgage, to be at least 110 or more to clear back everything you've gone into the deal for. In other words, the purchase price plus the costs, and that's 110. So if we're going to get a 75% mortgage, if you look about there, you'll see 75% mortgage comes up. The new, and I'll put the figures in so you can see them and write them down. So the 75% mortgage has to be 110 or more. If the new value of the property comes in at 110,000, that's not going to work. If the new value of the property comes in at about 120, it's still not going to work for you. So you can reverse the calculation by trying the following example. Take 110,000 and divide it by 0.75. Just try that now. Divide 110 by 0.75. I'll do it on the screen for you. And that will tell you the market value that the property needs to be. Because if you reverse the calculation, which I'll do over there, probably somewhere down there, and you take market value times by 0.75, that will give you 110,000. So now I know my numbers. So I can actually work out what I'm going to buy the property for, what the costs are going to go into the property. That'll tell me what I'm all in for. I take the all-in number divided by 0.75, and that tells me what the asking price, or sorry, the buying price needs to be from the person buying from me. Meaning that when I sell the property in 6 months' time, or I refinance the property in 6 months' time because I want to actually do a refinance and keep the property, then that reverse calculation, the figure down there, that's what the market value has to be. If I go out to my estate agents and say, or my valuers and say, hey, listen, if I renovate this project, what am I going to get for it? And they say, Dr. Weerasinghe, about 122,000. I'm going to go, that's not enough. So I know that I need to be at that figure there in order to get my 110,000 back. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's fast forward, and you've done the work on the property, the money's been lent to you by your folks in this example into the company, everything's been done legally and properly, and now the property refinances and you get the market value that you wanted. Fantastic, you get 75%, you do the refinance, the new mortgage comes in to the solicitor's account. They then are legally obligated to pay off the old mortgage that you had originally on the property. Remember, you bought it for 100, so the old mortgage would have been 75,000, so they're going to pay off the 75,000. Leaving the rest of the cash in the bank there, and that's written down somewhere on the left-hand side here. So what then happens is that money comes back to you minus some legal fees, keeping it simple. Great. Well, in that case, you go back and pay mum and dad out of the company their money back. Now it's 6-7 months down the line. They may have lent you the money for 1 year to 2 years, which means you could go do another project if there's enough time to do it. But let's say you don't and you pay them back. So over here, what you've got is the new market value. It's been refinanced. You've paid back whoever it is, in this case, your parents. And now what you've got is no money in this deal. There's no money in the deal. Let me say that again. There's no money in the deal because everything's gone back. That means that that property now is yours with equity on it because that's the value and that's the new mortgage. The third point I just want to say here is you really should only be doing this if you've done the revaluation calculation for the cash flow. What do you mean by that, Dr. Rowe? Well, I'm not going to do it here. It's a separate exercise for a different occasion. But what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is when you refinance it on paper and you look at what the new interest rate is going to be and the new mortgage is going to be, that mortgage has to be increased. You've got to take your rent minus the new mortgage minus your running costs. It should still cash flow for you. Remember, this is a no money left in the deal with cash flow. This is not a no money left in the deal with no cash flow. I'm going to throw my hat down. I'm going to get angry and say, I bought this property, I've refinanced it, I've put the money back over there. Oh my gosh, it's negatively cash flowing. Not a good strategy, okay? So we put our thinking hats on, calculation, we do the numbers. Does it cash flow after the refinance? That's the third tip. Okay, so that's no money left in. Hopefully that's useful. Hopefully the diagrams have been useful. It's Dr. Rowe signing out. I shall see you on one of my future Investing with Dr. Rowe short messages.